If there's ever a group of extremely despised champions in League of Legends, top lane has practically all of them. From the 4 horsemen of top lane to the 4 horsemen of top lane, and basically everything else in between. The beauty, or should I say annoying part of the Rift Island, is that it possesses arguably the most diverse array of champions out of any role. For better or worse, everything is up there. As the top laner myself and being friends with a lot of other top laners across all elos, I've gotten requests to discuss a particular group of them. Ranged top laners are among the most notorious picks in the game for practically forcing a one-sided game state that isn't even all that beneficial for the team with a ranged top laner, leading to an experience that on average turns out negative more than positive. By and large, they exist for the sole purpose of cheesing lane, but even among the group, some get hated more than others, not necessarily because they're better at their job, it could just be as a result of how tedious they are to fight. Wouldn't you believe it, the overwhelming majority of them happen to be Yordles, widely considered the most annoying faction in the game. The 4 rats of top lane comprise a handful of ranged top laners who may very well be the least enjoyed opponents to go up against, and for today we'll be looking into exactly why they in particular get hated ever so slightly more than their peers. To reiterate for those who didn't see my video on ranged top laners, which I highly recommend you do after this one, the foremost reason they're almost unanimously hated both by those who play against them but even on their own team is due to them contributing very little towards their team's win condition. At the cost of a dominant laning phase by way of their strong neutral game, with the bulk of all ranged top laners offering little more than damage, they neglect to fill out any roles conducive to their team. For example, when looking at Vayne top, Vayne is an exceptionally powerful counterpick against most juggernauts by virtue of her ability to sidestep critical attacks, keep a fair distance away from them, and output persistent DPS to break through whatever defense they may carry. In exchange, however, you're essentially forcing your team to run 2 marksmen, not only running the risk of getting shut down by anti-marksman stuff like a Malphite or even Ninja Tabby, but Vayne's not the most team player champion out there. Top laners across the board can and are expected to contribute at least something of value to the team come the eventual 5v5. The likes of Vayne, Akshan, Aurora, Jace, Quinn and such, not so much. For the most part, the rats of top lane are beholden to the same doctrine governing the rest of their team, characterized by a strong laning phase while compromising a bit in team utility. However, distinguishing them from other ranged top laners is that their power stems not from merely being able to attack their lane opponent at a safe distance, rather their ability to negate certain types of champions. There are 2 types of ranged top laners, carries and anti-carries. True, Vayne top functionally negates Mordekaiser and Dr. Mundo, but her primary directive is to carry the game by DPSing as if she was an actual carry. It isn't to stop the opposing top laner and by extension their team from carrying. As you know by now, fighting an anti-carry can be quite a frustrating experience. While others carve a path to victory by trying to overpower your agency with theirs, anti-carries exist to undermine your agency, not exert their own. No champions are better at doing that than the 4 rats of top lane. Recall that pressure is the identifying metric behind the strength of top laners. Top laners will naturally carry lower kill participation and less than flattering KDAs as a result of that lower kill participation. But that doesn't mean their influence on the game is any less than that of the other 4 roles. In some circumstances, it might even be greater. Pressure is hard to quantify because in application, it's a purely psychological thing. For example, Fiddlesticks can exert a tremendous amount of pressure on the enemy team when they can't see him due to the very real and dangerous possibility of getting team wiped off a single Crowstorm. In other words, the threat of Crowstorm can pressure the enemy team to play more conservatively than they would like to. More than any other role, top laners are expected to be fully self-sufficient, and often can handle themselves in practically any scenario. Depending on what that might be, they can add a lot of pressure to opponents. If you see a Tryndamere pushing down a side lane, even if he's 0-5, the risk of getting backdoored makes him their priority target. Whatever form it takes, pressure can make a champion significantly more threatening than their score would have you believe. The best way to elaborate how that applies to the 4 rats of top lane would be to go through one of them at a time. Beginning with the iconic unofficial mascot of League. Teemo at this point is a long-standing veteran of top lane, sporting an extensive history of being annoying and unpleasant to play against, but super cute and fun to play when you get the chance to. For all the hate he used to get, every top laner, without question, is guilty of that one random Teemo game you played where you ran around pissing people off and getting away with it. But I digress. Initially, Teemo appears to be your garden variety ranged top laner. He's a ranged auto attacker who can do on and magic damage and apply a poison dot with his attacks. Blinding Dart affords him the unique ability to nullify all basic attacks on his target and whatever supplementary effects that come with them, enabling him to be surprisingly powerful against many different top laners. For instance, if Alawi tries to use Harsh Lesson while blinded, not only will it miss, but the tentacles will not follow up on her target. Empowered auto attacks will also fully miss, Garen Q, Renekton W, Darius W, and so on. Though I often point to Move Quick as one of the least impactful abilities in the game, Teemo's naturally high tempo also makes him difficult to chase after if he chooses to run away from you, and with the constant damage over time from Toxic Shot, he can easily bully most melee top laners. Overall, he has quite a strong laning phase. Past laning phase though is where you can find the real annoyance of fighting against him. Contrary to popular belief, while he is a lane bully, in my opinion, Teemo's actually weakest during laning phase. He doesn't have the best effective range and no easy escape option or sustain, making it dangerous to blind pick him as he can get hard countered just as easily as he can hard counter you. But, and this is where the rats of top lane get to shine, they might be the only ranged top laners who can and do contribute a lot towards their team, in their own ways. Noxious Trap single-handedly renders the entire map hazardous in the mid to late game, especially if the enemy team lacks any sustain to recover from any damage, or frontline to face tank the shrooms. People are quick to write off Teemo's shrooms as a minor inconvenience at most because like any trap you can locate and disarm them by carrying oracles. But therein lies the pressure aspect I talked about. Just because it doesn't register in the form of damage or kills doesn't mean it's not backing the enemy team into a corner. By forcing all of his opponents to run oracles, not only can Teemo still play shrooms down in spots that they wouldn't think to check, but that also means less wards and farsight trinkets on the enemy team, thereby giving your team more dominance and vision control, because remember, if enemies are attacking wards you can see them. The mushroom doesn't have to go out to give away their current position, which your team can then act on. To repeat, Teemo's method of carrying games is by making it difficult for the enemy team to navigate the map at their own pace. His presence in the game effectively dictates the pace of neutral. On one hand, the enemy team could just go guns blazing, charging through every mushroom without a care in the world, but then they'd enter a team fight seriously injured. On the other hand, if they try to carefully go throughout the jungle and disarm traps, that inherently limits their tempo and makes them play in a more reactive manner, not proactive, giving Teemo's team the ability to take the initiative. So in addition to Teemo being annoying to fight in lane, he's just annoying to deal with overall. A good Teemo player can exert overwhelming amounts of pressure against the enemy team because they have to assume a mushroom can be literally anywhere, and in the mid to late game, a single shroom can nuke a squishy for half their HP if not more. People don't think Teemo's a hard carry because he often has underwhelming scores, but he makes up for it with incredible macro pressure. It can feel suffocating fighting a good Teemo. Suffocation is basically the perfect way to explain the 4 rats of top lane. They're really good at suffocating you. Other ranged top laners can typically be beaten by fighting force with greater force, but if you try to do that against the rats you'll almost certainly lose. Gnar is the perfect example of that. Just like Teemo, Gnar's a bitch and a half to fight in lane. He may even be more threatening to deal with in that regard. Unlike the Yordle Scout, Gnar carries a long-range projectile that can deal quite a solid amount of damage if it lands on just you. In terms of DPS, while he may not have damage over time, what he does have is % max health damage. You might be able to face tank a couple Teemo shots, but doing so against Gnar can be way more difficult by way of his innate tank shred. Gnar is also a lot better at escaping enemy attempts to attack him courtesy of the hop. The tempo boost on his W along with the potential double jump on his Z makes him one of the hardest top laners to catch. And even if you feel like you finally have a shot at getting a piece of him, when he turns into Mega Gnar, he has enough power to blow you up in one rotation. The bonus tank stats afforded to Mega Gnar coupled with the sheer base damage and crowd control duration of his Q, W, and ultimate put him on the same level of all-in pressure as a Renekton or Darius. And lest we forget Gnar's eponymous ultimate being one of the best team-fighting gauges to ever exist. Admittedly, his pressure is a lot more straightforward than Teemo's. He doesn't exactly stop the enemy team from moving around the map, but as a result of how strong he is in Mega form and how quickly he can dive into the enemy team, he's effectively a Malphite who can do way more damage. While in mini form, Gnar can repeatedly poke you in neutral, and as soon as he hits max rage, he can switch from a hit and run playstyle to full sending into your team and blowing you all up. Once again, Gnar's extremely good at controlling the pace of the game. Most top laners obviously can't do much to attack him when he's mini since he can disengage, and when he does want to engage, you have to run the hell away from him unless you're absolutely certain you can overpower Mega Gnar, to which very few champions are able to unless they're extremely fed. The idea of a ranged top laner who pokes you over and over but can also turn into a teamfight raid boss and blow everyone up off a one-man wombo combo contributes the same kind of suffocation as his peers. Kennen is also in a similar boat as Gnar. In fact, he might be the most annoying of the top lane rats. Just like the Rage monster, Kennen has a long-range projectile that can do a serious amount of damage, and he has a near-instant disengage tool if you're ever impatient enough to go in. Lightning Rush may even be a stronger mobility tool than Hop despite not actually being a dash, because you can reposition in a more dynamic fashion. That, and it's only a 6-second cooldown at max rank, which is insanely low for an ability that effectively doubles your move speed. Rare to find among ranged top laners is that Kennen has hard crowd control built into his normal rotation. Very effective, unconditional, and easy crowd control I might add. He simply needs to tag you with 3 of his damaging abilities to stun you for 1.25 seconds, and if he lands everything on you, including his ultimate, he can stun you for a total of 2.25 seconds. This makes him by far the hardest of the rats to actually catch and pin down, as even if you can gap close on him running away from you, He can just stun you and walk away safely, if not outright kill you. With each of his abilities having insanely high AP ratios, getting hit by a full QWE will shred you for half your HP. Worse yet, Kennen's also the hardest strat to all in. Unlike Gnar, Slicing Maelstrom is active 24/7 and deals an insane amount of damage on its own, even affording him bonus armor and magic resist. You'd be lucky to even survive his burst damage, let alone attack him before he gets to run away, and being an energy champion, he never has to worry about running out of mana. The only thing making laning phase even remotely fair against him is that he doesn't have the best wave clear or any sustain, so if you can poke him down yourself or hard shove against him, you might stand a chance. Keyword might. The utility of his kit further lends itself to pressuring the enemy team. For all intents and purposes, Kennen's all-in pressure is on par with Fiddlesticks. It might not be as jump scary, but there's a reason I call Slicing Maelstrom a super ultimate. A well-timed and placed Kennen ultimate can decide an entire team fight on its own, and with the way it's designed, it can be used offensively or defensively. Enemy teams have to respect the sheer counter-engage potential Kennen has, and they also have to keep an eye out for Kennen Ragebait flash ulting onto them. We can thank our lucky stars Kennen has a boring laning phase and gameplay loop, cause he's actually one of the few top laners who straight up destroys everyone in lane that isn't Dr. Mundo, Irelia, and Nasus. Even if he doesn't beat you in lane, he'll wipe out your entire team. It's kind of unfair. Continuing off the suffocation dynamic, we had the final rat, Heimerdinger. Heimerdinger's a lot more lane-oriented compared to the previous three, but I mean, like, have you ever laned against a Heimerdinger as a melee champion? Like, there's just no counterplay. You spend literally 20 minutes getting f***ed and perma-pushed on the entire time, repeatedly getting pelted by his turrets, and then if he lands a stun grenade on you, there goes half your HP. When you finally do run out of patience and try to dive him, even if by some cosmic imbalance of luck you're at full HP, Heimerdinger is one of the hardest champions to actually engage head-on, because if you do, you're basically tanking 3 of his mini turrets and then the giant turret which can do as much DPS as a full-on champion right in the face. It's also why people don't like to gank a Heimerdinger lane even if he's pushed up all the way to your tower. He's just that strong when he gets time to set up. Fortunately, in contrast to Gnar, Teemo, and Kennen, Heimer's macro and teamfight pressure aren't quite as consistent on account of him not being able to relocate his towers and stuff all that quickly. But if he gets time to set up, you're in for quite a battle. Heimerdinger without setup is a pretty lossy champion, but Heimer with setup is one of the strongest champions in the game. He consistently averages among the highest damage output on his team, and he can be very difficult to fight against in a siege or when being sieged on. So to reiterate for the umpteenth time, he and the other rats can suffocate you by making it really uncomfortable for you to initiate, enabling him to dictate the pace of the game. All 4 rats capitalize on how much they can twist your arm and exert maximum pressure. That doesn't mean they're the best champions in the game, or even the best in top lane for that matter. It's more that you can never truly navigate fighting against them in a straightforward manner. In trying to brute force them, which actually is the best way to fight every other ranged top laner, like with other Yordles, you're effectively playing right into their hand. Yordles are the anti-brute force champions. Some teams may straight up not have an answer against them, as Yordles can be notorious matchup checks. To properly take on the 4 rats of top lane, you either have to pray you counterpick them, or you just have to pray your team is smart enough to know exactly how to deal with them. In doing so, however, you might overcommit to that and lose against the other members of their team. All in all, what makes them so annoying to fight is that they basically make the game really unpleasant. Even in games where you beat them, the entire experience all the way through can be very frustrating to put up with. If it wasn't apparent, this video may have been slightly emotionally charged, but what do you guys think about the 4 rats of top lane? Do you agree with the notion that you have to be a certain kind of psychopath to actually main these champs, or do you think I'm overreacting a bit? Let me know in the comments down below. That'll be all for today though, so if you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate it if you'd like to like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Vars and join my Discord server, and why not check out my videos on the 4 horsewomen and the 4 horsemen of top lane if you haven't yet. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.